maybe some of us are yet to read the play. Maybe some of us have been introduced to the play by our teachers. But then I just want to make it clear, in the exam you did, in the end of term that you did, you may have done an excerpt from the novel, that is Fathers of Nations. That was as it was, because that was the only set book you had done so far. But otherwise, as we go along, I want to give you heads up that please take note, you'll be doing the Samaritan in your paper 2. The people who are doing the novel, Blossoms, not Blossoms rather, Fathers of Nations are the Form 4, but for you people are doing the Samaritan. Number 2, please get to understand the flow of the play, get to understand the flow of the play and the main issues within the play. That is very important. And there is a traditional question. There's a traditional question that they will always want to ask. Some of you are wondering, teacher, what do you mean by traditional question? By traditional question, I mean the obvious question that you will always meet in the exam, that NEC will always set, but once in a while, NEC will run away from that question and set something different. But when you give it that interpretation, you realize you're answering the same question, only that it has been set using different words. And I'll be showing you in a short while what that means. So the first traditional question you'll always be told is place this excerpt in its immediate context. And in such a situation, you'll be expected to state what happens before and what happens after. As we go along, please, gentlemen, take note. Your use of the subjective pronoun. Your use of subjective pronoun, you've just crossed over from Form 1 and 2 the other day. You must remind yourself what we mean by subjective pronouns. These are pronouns that take the place of a noun and most of the time at the beginning of the sentence. And they include he, or she, or I, or we, or they. Now, the reason why I'm asking you to be keen with these kind of pronouns, sometimes students mix the two. When they need to say he, they find themselves saying she. If you mix the two, like you have seen in my slide, your answer will be wrong. And I've given an example. Jaden tells Nicole that he will be appointed the Director General. I have highlighted the pronoun he. Maybe this student would have wanted to say, Jaden tells Nicole that she will be appointed the Director General. So please take note, now that the student has used the pronoun he in the place of she, the whole answer is wrong. Of course, we know that's what Jaden said, that if Nicole were to be willing, she will be given the position of Director General to help in the running of the affairs of the municipality. That is a Maracas municipality. So please, gentlemen, be careful with the way you use the pronouns. Then check the names of the characters. Check the names of the characters and mix, just as I've explained about your answer being wrong, and you'll be given a 0. And there is an example here, Nicole, just a minute. Yeah, that Nicole tells Narine that she's not her secretary to be the one informing her of the visit by the leaders of Maracas municipality. Now, those who have read the play, they know who was speaking these words. These were words of the principal, whose name is Narine. But then the principal was speaking to Nicole. But this student, for whatever, and please take note, when I say this student, I'm just giving an example, has shifted the names. Instead of saying Narine tells Nicole, the student says Nicole tells Narine. And automatically, this will lead to your answer being disqualified. So gentlemen, be careful when you use the names of the characters. I'm being warned that my connection is unstable. Bwana Ombiro, you have to be on standby and help me know whether I'm still in the meeting so that I don't speak to the machine. When answering the context question, you need to observe the following when answering the context question. You need to observe the following immediate context. That's what we call a context question. Observe the following. One, be brief and precise when giving the answers, when giving the names, and when giving or using the pronouns. Be brief and precise, to the point. And then your order of the point, please, I call for your attention from that point because I'm getting into the nitty-gritties of answering that question. If you are not keen, there is something here of the points. Remember, the question says, place this excerpt in its immediate context. In such a question, what they are asking you to do is, you help us to know what happened before the excerpt and what happened after the excerpt. Now, for those who may not know the meaning of an excerpt, I should have said that at the beginning. Excerpt is simply an extract of a portion of a novel or a portion of a play. An extract of a portion of a novel or a play. That is what we call an excerpt. So when they ask about placing it in its immediate context, you want to help someone maybe who has not read this play. Where has that as what happens after? Gentlemen, that is a very important component. The next point is, though the examiner, please take note of that, though the examiner is in a position to pick out the points under before and after, if possible, try and be systematic so that the examiner doesn't have attitude with your script. There is something I'm going to mention here. There are students who may have listened to or have read books, and maybe you have been told you don't need this, you don't need to do that. I don't know what. My friend, you need to. You need to be systematic. You need to be orderly in your work. Do not just write your whatever you're writing, and then you expect that someone is going to give you a mark because you feel like you have given all the answers. Have order. Gentlemen, give me a second. Give me a second. I do something here. Please don't leave the meeting. Just give me a second. I'll be back into the meeting in a short while. Just hold on. There's something distracting me here, so I don't want to. Just hold on, please. Yes, we can carry on. We can carry on. What did I mean by the order of the points? Which one has happened first and which one has happened last? Number two, I have said yes, as an examiner, when I read your answer, I'm able to tell that this point is what happens first and this is what happens last. I know that. But that does not give you the license to write your answers the way you so wish. Like I've mentioned here, you'll end up losing your marks. Now, the next point is divide the marks. Divide the marks. If you have 4 marks, if you have been given 4 marks for the question, it means the before will score 2 marks and the after will score 2 marks. If the question says, place this excerpt in its immediate context. I've given you a piece of advice. It would have been advisable to write headings before and after. You know, when you are given that answer sheet of yours, then you write below that question, you write before, and you write the points which appear before the excerpt. Then thereafter, you write another heading after, and you write the points which appear after the excerpt. That could have been the best way forward to make your work stand out and easier for the examiner to read. However, there is some danger in it. There is some danger in it that if the points appearing before are meant for after, if the points appearing under before are meant for after, you get yourself a zero. I want to be very clear here. You have made a heading. You told the examiner, these are my points for before. You've made another heading. These are my points for after. Then at the end of the day, when the examiner reads your answers, he concludes that the points you have written for before should have been for after, and the points you have written for after should have been for before. This is a very dangerous situation you'd have found yourself in. You have tied the hands of the examiner, and there's nothing he can do about it. He will give you zeros. And therefore, what is the way out of this? That the best way out of this, just write a paragraph. Write a paragraph that in that paragraph, the examiner will be in a position to know that these are points for before and these are points for after. Please take note of that. Just write a paragraph and leave it upon the examiner to pick out what is for before and what is for after. Then to my next slide, ask yourself the following questions. Whenever you are told to answer such a question, ask yourself the following questions. One, what actions, what events, what occurrences took place before the excerpt? Actions. Then whenever there is an action, there must be an issue. What is the main issue here being discussed? For example, when Justice Jaden, Mayor Mosley, and the group, when they visit the school, that is the action. They visited the school, that is the action. But what was the main issue? The main issue was to discuss and see the way of roping in Nicole into the leadership of Maracas municipality as a way of striking a compromise with her so that maybe she can tone down on the issue of the Samaritan app. Remember, we live in the society of people who are compromised. You may have a stand on some issues, but then because maybe your integrity, your dignity is questionable, people will come with what I would call, a carrot that is symbolic to mean some enticing thing, and then you accept and you join them. So the issue was they wanted to convince Nicole maybe to tone down on the issue of her Samaritan app, and they joined them. And then who are the major characters? Who are the major characters that were involved in the issue before the excerpt? Like I've mentioned, we have Nicole, we have the Principal Narine, we have the Mayor, Mosi, we have Justice Jaden, among other characters thereof. So those are the questions whenever you're answering that question, you must always be asking yourself. To my next slide, that is the traditional questions. Traditional questions you'd expect in an excerpt, if like a question. We have themes, we have characterization, we have style, we have tone, we have attitude, and then we have mood. These are the traditional questions that students must always prepare themselves whenever they want to do a question on, if you like, with regard to an excerpt. Whether you like it or not, you must always answer these questions, and please prepare yourself. And that's why we are here. That's why we are preparing you. In order to score full marks, always identify and illustrate your answers. That is a very important point I must begin with. Always identify and illustrate your answers. Why should you identify? That's a question, of course, a rhetorical question, not that I will expect you to respond. Why should you identify and fail to illustrate your answer? You have worked so hard to say that this is irony. What is so difficult for you to go ahead and now explain or illustrate why you feel there is irony? Therefore, it is advisable to always illustrate in order to score a full mark. And I've given examples here. I've given 2 examples here of identification and then illustration. One is a character trait of Nicole. And I've said Nicole is respectful. Why do I think Nicole is respectful? Let the reader know why you are making this kind of a statement. And the illustration is Nicole politely turns down Ted's offer of a golden ring. Remember Ted, when they went to visit her, he wanted to give her a golden ring. Of course, all of us, let me not say all of us, most of us here have read the play, and we know the kind of a person Ted is. When he got to know of who Nicole is, and with all due respect, Nicole is a beautiful character. We may have read mischief in his intention of giving her a golden ring. But then look at Nicole's response. She doesn't shout at him and say, to hell with you. No, she says, thank you, I don't wear them. So this response is what makes me say that Nicole is a respectful character. Then the next one, I've given an example here. Just hang on in there. I've given an example of style. An example of style, and it is irony. And my illustration or explanation is Mossy explains the kind of leadership Maracas needs to have, devoid of ills, evil practices, that is, yet he is the one presiding over the rotten system. He is the mayor. If you have read the play, that is after the excerpt that I'm going to give you, he goes ranting, if those are my words now, explaining to Nicole the kind of leaders we need to have, that justice should be served to everyone and not being a reserve of those who have money. And the police should be serving everyone without any considerations. Whoever breaks the law should be handled accordingly. But the question we should be asking ourselves is, he is the mayor. We have read the play. This is the kind of a system we have of Maracas municipality. So is it a case of the mayor failing to see a log in his eye, but being able to see a speck in other people's eyes, So that's a form of irony. And please, there's a point of note I've given you. Do not stroke your answers. Why are we saying so? Should the synonyms not agree? Should the synonyms not agree? And I know this is a disease. Sorry, I'm calling it disease because where I sit, it is, and it's affecting our performance as literature. You have read some guidebooks. I know you people. You and the guidebooks, you are one. I'm sure if I unmuted you here, all of you will burst out laughing. Several of you have guidebooks both in your desk and somewhere at home. And most of the guidebooks, if you look at the character traits, mainly the character traits and the themes, they have been stroked. Kindly don't try this at home, because if you stroke your answers in the event that if you like, in the event that they are not synonyms, then I'm afraid we will give you a 0. Let's have a look at irony. Let's have a look at irony. Is a very common question in the excerpt. How are we supposed to answer a question related to irony? That's a very important question. If you are not careful with this kind of a question, you might never score it. But because we are in such a meeting like this, and I'm speaking to you from a point of view of an examiner, then at the end of this presentation, all of you should be able to answer this question competently and in a reliable manner. Therefore, we are saying this, that for irony to score, there must be double first answer to it for it to score. You people, you do mathematics and probably physics, and you are the people who talk about, I don't know, 1 dimension, 2 dimension, 3 dimensions, I'm also coming to you from the same point of view, that if I gave you a coin today, maybe it is 5-cent coin, 10-cent coin, 20-cent coin. I want to see the two sides of that coin, where we have maybe the portrait. By then, we used to have the portrait of the president on our currencies. I want to see the portrait of the president on one side, and on the other side, maybe I want to see the logo of and that doesn't qualify to be a coin. And I'm being warned here that my internet is unstable. I hope it doesn't remove me from the meeting. For us to have two sides of irony, I have hinted to you here that you will need a connector expressing contrast. How do you have two sides of irony? Look for a connector expressing contrast if you like contradiction. And then now that you put your form threes, all is a conditional.
We are losing it. We can hear you. I've lost you completely, teacher.
Same here.
Good morning. It seems Mwalimu is out for a bit, but he's coming back. Let's just be patient. Meanwhile, any questions you have so far, you can start putting in the chat so that when he comes back, he can respond to them.
Please, Madam Form Principal, confirm that I'm back in the meeting.
Yes, you are. Just continue. Thank you.
All right. So, sorry for that hitch. So we move on with I was explaining why you should not stroke your answers, and I think my point is clear. And then I had moved on to, I still seem like my internet is having an issue. Madam, if you don't mind, please pick up from that point and allow the boys if they have a question so far as I reorganize my sitting position with the internet.
That's all right.
Maybe you can give the boys a chance.
I'd actually asked them if they could just put in the chat so that it's easy for us to read and not miss out anything. But unfortunately, I can't read the chat. I'm not a host. So it will just have to be you to read the chat.
Okay. Maybe for now we can carry on with the meeting so that we save on time. I see Brevin Sawe here. In the presentation of the immediate context, should the points be given in the point form? Kindly don't try this at home. this is not sawe. This is not not making. This is not making. We are talking about prose. Don't use those dashes and the hyphens and the abs. Don't. Just write in prose, and then we'll be able to pick out the points as they come. Thank you so much. I was explaining the use of irony, and I have referred you to your Form 3. Read about transitional devices expressing what? Contrast. Then, however, you also need to be informed as students of literature that you can use sarcasm as a way of illustrating irony. You can use sarcasm as a way of illustrating irony. I hope you know that. And if you don't know, I'm going to inform you, because you and I will know that sarcastic statements may not necessarily be the truth of what the speaker is saying, but his intention could be to ridicule the person he's speaking to mock, probably with an expectation of causing some, some feelings. Maybe the person who is being spoken to may feel a bit hurt, may feel embarrassed, and therefore that is the idea of sarcasm. Well, when you use sarcasm to illustrate irony, we may not clearly see the contradiction. We do not have the yet, we do not have the though, we do not have the although, but the contradiction is implied, irony is implied. And with the permission of my colleagues who may be in the meeting, I want to use an example of what we had in the Blossoms of the Savannah. That was a conversation between one Olespeyo and Olekailo. That was a question, I think, in 2019 or 2020, one of the two in KCSE. They did not say, place this excerpt in its immediate context. The question was, who is Olespeyo and why has Olekailo gone to visit him? And then another question was, explain the use of style in this excerpt. And in the conversation between Olespeyo and Olekailo, Olekailo said, Oloisdori, who gave him money, is a good man. And the response of Olespeyo was, a good man indeed. Those who had read the novel knew that Oloisdori was a dangerous man. But when Olespeyo responded and said, a good man indeed, that became a sarcastic statement, and therefore it's another form of irony. So it's the choice is yours, but because you are my students, I would prefer that you stick to the traditional way of illustrating irony. Just give us the two sides of the coin by making sure you are using connectors expressing contrast, such as yet, though, although, but, and others. Relating, the next point I would like us to discuss is there a time in the exam you will be given permission to go outside the excerpt? Is there a time in the exam you'll be given permission to go outside the excerpt? Yes, there is. And this is what I'm calling. There's some echo, someone? I can hear an echo. Yes, this is what I'm calling relating occurrences or statements. You'll be told, using your experience, using your understanding of the play, or using your knowledge of the play, answer this question. So that means you've been given the freedom to go outside the excerpt. The next point I would like us to belabor on is the idea of how neck behaves. That's a very important point from me. The unpredictable nature of neck. And please, my dear students, that I must say so loudly, that neck has become, in my own words, a monster that is unpredictable. You prepare as a candidate to answer these kind of questions, you go there and you meet something different. Therefore, I'm calling upon you to master the way to answer questions, be prepared and be ready to do anything as it is presented. Don't go to the exam with this fixed attitude of what we call traditional questions, the way we are doing them now. No. Yes, you expect to answer questions on themes, you expect to answer questions on character, style, tone, attitude, and mood. But be ready to encounter any questions After all, they say forewarned is being forearmed. Be in a position to interpret them as they come. And again, with the permission of my colleagues in the meeting, I want to draw your attention. You may not have read, but it's a good example I want to give based on Blossoms of the Savannah. Remember, we talk from what we have seen as we prepare you people. And this was in 2021. Now, because of COVID, this must be 2022 March because of COVID. Now, the question that students were expecting was either place this excerpt in its immediate context, or maybe they were expecting explain what happens before this excerpt. But that year, that is 2021, that was not the case. The question was, instead of explain what happens before this excerpt, they said, quote unquote, who is Olespeo and why has Olekaelo come to visit him? And the students were given 3 marks. I'm sure those who had crammed, when I go to the exam, the first question must be, place this excerpt in its immediate context, or explain what happens before this excerpt. That was not the case for these students, but the good thing is the question was not so complicated. At least most of them were able to say he's a respected elder in Nasila, a rich old man, and a friend of Olekaelo. That is why he has gone to visit him to seek some advice. Then the next question that was traditional, the theme, the question on theme is a traditional question. So you'll be told, identify and discuss N2 or 3 themes found. Please don't give me an echo. I don't want to hear my feedback. Yes. So maybe students were expecting to discuss themes, but now this year, 2021, they were given the theme. And then they were told now, what do we learn about corruption in this excerpt? So one of the themes that we had in the novel Blossoms of the Savannah was the theme of corruption. So it was already given. Now the students were being requested, or rather asked, to explain what they learned about corruption in that society. My friends, this year, most of the students got 0 in this particular question because they had a fixed approach. They knew the themes, but now they were given the theme and then they were told to say what they learned from it. And because of this, I will refer you to how do you answer a question which asks contrast between 2 things. I will fall back to it. You may want to write it down, Rooney. However, this year, please, I refer you to your oral literature. Oral literature, specifically the narratives. You'll be given a narrative, and one traditional question in the narrative that you might always answer is, what lesson do we learn from this narrative? That is basically what they're asking you here when they say, what do we learn about corruption in this excerpt? In other words, they're asking you, what lesson have you learned? What do you conclude after having read this excerpt with regard to corruption? So please don't have a fixed approach to issues. Be open, be ready for any question as it comes, so that you are able to answer the question as expected. So they were supposed to give their opinion. They were supposed to give a lesson. And I have 2 examples from that year. The marking scheme expected students to say, corruption destroys reputation. Corruption destroys reputation because, or maybe because, Olespeo does not think Oloisdori is a good man. His reputation had been destroyed. So the point is, I have learned that corruption destroys reputation. Another point you have learned is corruption is evil. Corruption is evil because it makes people to take advantage of others, among others. So please, once again, to wrap it up, you may expect to answer questions on themes, but you may be given the theme and you are told, what do you learn from this particular theme? Thank you. Allow me to move to the next slide in the interest of time. Another question that you expect in the excerpt is a good question. It is either torn mood, or attitude. And it is mainly 3 marks. Not mainly, mostly 3 marks. And please take note how we divide the marks. Identification scores 2 marks, illustration or explanation 1 mark. You may want to ask, why are we giving identification a higher mark than the illustration? Remember, tone, attitude, mood, and irony. These are high order questions. And therefore, if a student is in a position to identify them, it is only fair that identification scores highly than the illustration. No mark will be given for explanation without a proper identification. You cannot explain what you have not identified. You cannot explain what you have not identified. Then, however, should one fail to identify a proper adjective? Now, this is not meant for Alliance High School. You guys, you're supposed to be bright enough, but this is something maybe we tell students who are weaker. And should I say, maybe if I'm not being sarcastic, I have no weak student in my class so far, so that I'm not going to explain maybe what I wanted to explain. But for the sake of it, let me just explain that please, when you go to the exam and they ask you about the tone or attitude in this excerpt, do not leave a blank space because you can't identify a noun, you can't identify an adjective. No. As an examiner, I would ask you to do a brief explanation. From that explanation, there is a possibility that I'll pick up something and equate with the marking scheme and give you a mark. So please don't leave a blank space. And I'll give you an example. If you are not able to say that, and please, with the permission of my colleagues who may be in the meeting, I'm making reference to A Doll's House. I just speak it the way it came. For the sake of the boys, please, A Doll's House is a play that was done by the previous classes, not you people, those who left. And therefore, I picked one. The students were supposed to give the attitude of Nora towards Krogstad. And one student simply wrote, Nora hates Krogstad because she refers to him as a horrible man. And then because of the word hates, I would look at the marking scheme. It is equivalent or it is in the neighborhood of hateful, and I will give that student a mark. So please don't leave a blank space. But because you are Alliance High School, we are looking for perfection. We don't want to leave room for mercy, doubt, and sympathy and what have you. Just do the right thing. Look for the adjective or look for the noun. If it's the adjective, say hateful, maybe contemptuous. If it is the noun, the attitude of hatred or the attitude of contempt. And then you'll be able to be given your marks. Then we have questions about roles of characters. That's a very important question.
You are breaking up.
Time here. Roles of characters in an excerpt. Roles of characters in an excerpt. And stable. Wanobiro, next time you put me in your office. Roles of the characters in an excerpt. Traditionally, we have 5 roles of characters. We have 5. I hope, Wanobiro, I'm now clear. Thank you. You can hear me. We have had 5 roles of characters, but maybe another one may come up. The first role of a character, not just in an excerpt, in a set book. One is to bring out the themes. The second one is to enhance plot. The third one is to bring out style. The fourth one is to develop other characters, what we call character development. And the last one for now is to bring out lessons, or to bring out moral lessons. Those are the roles of characters, and in a short while, I'll take you through each one of them. Look at the first one. The first one, and with the permission of my colleagues again who are in the meeting, I'm making reference to 2019. That is A Doll's House. That was a question. They asked, what is the role of children in the play? And of course, we also have children in this particular play, The Samaritan. Maybe someone may ask a question, what is the role of the students in this play? Or what is the role of the Teacher Nicole in this play? You know, just have in your mind, whenever they ask about roles, theme, style, plot, character, and lesson. That particular year, we expected candidates to say the children are used to reinforce the idea of family because they plead with Nora, their mother, to play with them. The children are used to reinforce the idea of family because they plead with their mother, Nora, to play with them. When I'm marking, automatically I know that is a theme. And then we also had children are used to bring comic relief, you know, or to Okay, thank you, Madam Esther. Noted. They used to bring comic relief or relieve tension in the play or create humor or dramatic irony, whatever that is about style. You know, when they talk about the stranger man having left, and then of course when Nora is telling the children, do not tell anyone that a stranger man was here, that is irony. How can a mother tell the children to lie, you know? Then children are used to also develop plots. You know, they intensify the conflict in the play. I'm just reading the answers as they were on the marking scheme in 20. The stranger man has left. That is to say, the play has to carry on. The plot has to go on. And then, of course, to bring out the character of Nora as loving, if you like, as motherly or responsible or friendly or deceitful. More so deceitful. How do the children, if you like, how did the children bring out the character of Nora as being deceitful? When they requested Nora to play with them, now that the stranger man has left, Nora's response is please that you go into the room, do not tell anyone, not even your father, that a stranger man was here, or there was someone who came around. I'm being told that I'm breaking. All right. Let me move on to the next slide. Just hold on. Hang on in there.
You are breaking.
Uh,
Can you take the roll call?
My slides have got mixed up a little bit, but give me a little.
Roll call.
Let me put them in order.
Sir, roll call. Roll call.
Yes. Sorry for that. Please, I want to appeal to you as I bring the play as men. Yes? Someone said something. Uh,
Roll call.
there is a Felix Kiprotich and whoever else you are asking about the roll call, and it has done me some harm. It has interfered with my presentation and removed me from the meeting. Kindly mute so that you allow me to wind up, and then you do the roll call. And please, someone to confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, you can hear
We
me.
can hear you.
Yes,
Yes, we
yes,
can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
We can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you. I was on this point of asking you to read the play as many times as possible, and my problem is that most of you have guidebooks. You have disregarded the play and even the novel. You'd rather read the guidebooks. What do you want to get in those guidebooks? You want to cram the themes, the styles, and the characters. It is my prayer that you read the play. Read the play as many times as you can. You'll be in a position to answer this question on the excerpt. And of course, even in paper 3, you'll be able to give the illustrations as required. Do what we call literary criticism of any given text. Today, and I'm going to give you some work here. That are you able to read a given text, and be in a position to respond to the themes, the character traits, or the styles without ever having learned them anywhere else? But this is the first time you get to hear them, you get to read a section, you get to read a play, you get to answer those questions without using a guidebook. And with me, I have an example here drawn from, I think, Mine's Boy from South Africa by Peter Abraham. It's an excerpt about Reverend Kumalo. I would ask one student to unmute and read for me that particular section about Reverend Kumalo. Whoever goes first, now that I'm not in a position to tell who. Anyone to unmute and read?
Reverend Kumalo arrived in the city late in the afternoon the following day. He realized that the blacks and whites were not walking along the same pavements of being seen together. His brother had become an activist condemning the way blacks were being mistreated. His son Absalom had killed a white who was a black sympathizer. His daughter Gertrude was making a living by selling her body to men. Ultimately, she was sick. Identify
Okay,
any possible theme, style, and
thank you so much. Your name again? Your name?
Meshach.
Thank you, Meshach. Thank you, Meshach, for the reading. I would like someone now to unmute and identify and illustrate any theme that comes out of this excerpt. Any theme that comes out of this excerpt, anyone?
Prostitution.
One person, sorry.
Prostitution.
If you can use the chat room, you can use the chat room so that I pick on one person. Just type your name and I mention. Whoever wants to read, please type your name in the chat room. Ryan? Is it Ryan or Ryan? Ryan. Ryan, go ahead. Ryan, please unmute and answer the question. Ryan does not seem to hear me. Any other person who is ready to respond to my question? Kevin Kipchumba, are you able to respond? We have Augustine Mbalo. Augustine? We have read an extract from whatever it is from South Africa. Now what I'm asking is there any theme you can identify from that extract?
There is racism.
We have racism evidence. Are you still able to see my presentation on the other side?
Yes.
Can you give me the evidence, illustration?
The blacks and the whites don't talk in the same place.
If you look at the excerpt, Reverend Kumalo realized that the blacks and whites were not walking along the same pavements or being seen together. That is an illustration for what you have just said, that there is racism in South Africa. Is there any character traits, maybe for Reverend Kumalo's son, Absalom? Any character trait of Absalom? Someone to attempt the character trait of Absalom, who was a black sympathizer. What can we say about it?
Can you say he was sympathetic?
Sympathetic? But look at the words. His son Absalom had killed, was sympathetic. Now what about this one who had killed him? Absalom had killed a white man. How do you refer to him in terms of character trait?
Merciless.
Merciless.
Okay,
Murder.
someone say. I'm afraid the murderer is not. But those who are saying merciless, you come closer home. But maybe you can say someone is singing along. Maybe we can say he's violent. You know, he's violent.
Unforgiving.
Maybe ruthless.
Unforgiving, ruthless. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Those are enough examples. What about style? Any style that you may have seen? Any style? Anyone who has seen a style, maybe irony? Someone to talk about irony? Please, let's save on time. What do we find ironical in this excerpt?
There is irony where Gertrude, Reverend Kumalo's daughter, is making a living by selling her body to men, yet his father is a reverend.
Thank you so much for using the word yet, though we want to play safe with this one. This internet thing, I'm being told again, my internet is unstable. To hell with this.
Symbolism.
So we have to play safe here when we are saying Gertrude is making a living by selling her body to men, yet she's a daughter of a reverend. We have to play safe because just because a father is a pastor, it does not mean that the child must also be, like a father. So we have to be careful. Is there any irony you have seen in these words? His son Absalom had killed a white who was a black sympathizer. Is there any irony in that?
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Explain what you find ironical. My dear Form 3s, you are taking a bit long. Saying yes and keeping quiet is not a response to my question, please. The iron we have here is Absalom kills a white, yet he was a black sympathizer. Absalom kills a white, yet he was a black sympathizer. Remember, Absalom is black. So why are you killing a white who is your sympathizer? Probably because of his color. Thank you so much. So that is what I call literary criticism. We should be in a position to read a play. This is the Samaritan, and respond to the questions as they come. Thank you so much. We still have a few minutes to go. Let me take you to now the real thing. On your screen, you should be able to see an excerpt that I have picked from the play. And there are questions I would like us to respond to in a short while. I know you might beat me at my own game because you have the plays with you, I'm sure, as we speak. And therefore, question one, you'll just be looking at the play and then you cheat me. Fine, I will allow you to cheat me for now. After all, with the time, you'll get to learn. I would like, I don't know how we're going to go about this one. Is it possible for us to have people reading? Is it possible for us to read something here? We have Bembe, we have Mosi, we have Nicole, we have Ted, we have Jaden. Can someone be Bembe to read and another person be Mosi? It is not long, just a short while and then we are done. Who is reading Bembe? I have a class of 208. Out of the 208, I have no readers.
Before your lordship can go any further, I would like to apologize to Nicole for the misunderstanding that led to her arrest and arraignment in court. I have thought through the whole incident and I have realized the mistake was mine. I am very sorry.
My apologies too, Nicole. Sometimes I tread on people's toes in the course of duty, but it is never personal.
Looking somewhat puzzled, there was never anything personal in the matter of the Samaritan. It was just a school project by two of our students. In brackets, the party looks at one another. Nonetheless, I accept your apologies and I also apologize if I offended any one of you.
I have seen you several times, but I'm afraid I am not well acquainted with you. I am pleased to offer you this present. Walks over to Nicole and offers her a golden ring.
Declining the offer politely. Oh, thank you, but I don't wear them. My apologies. There is a brief awkward moment. Justice Jaden clears his throat, then removing his eyeglasses and fiddling with them in his hands, he speaks.
Nicole, we had a very long discussion as the top leadership of the municipality touching on the Samaritan. Poses and puts on his glasses, then resumes. After due deliberations, we agreed to consult you about the possible changes we need to effect to secure a good future for our municipality.
For our municipality. Who is reading Basdale?
We can only see until that point, sir.
Put it differently,
Yes.
Nicole. In the wake of the Samaritan,
Are you able?
it has become clear that we must introduce fundamental changes in the way our municipality is administered.
Whoever is reading, your internet is breaking.
If I put it differently, Nicole.
In the wake of the Samaritan, it has become clear that we must introduce fundamental. If I put it differently, Nicole, in the wake of the Samaritan, it has become clear that we must introduce fundamental changes in the way our municipality is administered. We recognize the truth that serious mistakes have been made in leadership and matters have now come to a head. We realize that this ship, that is our municipality, will sink unless we engineer the desired change.
Things are not that bad, of course, but we will
appreciate your contribution.
enhancing service delivery to the people.
Boldly, yes, I agree. There is an urgent need for drastic change.
Our question is the role you will prefer to play in a new order.
Actually, I am willing to play a prominent role. I owe Maracas municipality and our country as a whole civic duty. I am ready to work with patriotic citizens to enhance transparency and accountability in management of public affairs. Justice Jaden and company exchange glances. They all stand with relief and cheerfully move to shake Nicole's hand in turns. Nicole also stands up, though looking rather puzzled. Shaking Nicole's hand vigorously. Thank you very much. We welcome your offer to work with us. We want change in which public resources will no longer be stolen, in which justice will be served and not reserved for the rich, in which the police will no longer be stolen, in which justice will be served and not reserved for the rich, in which the police will stand with the innocent, not with the crooks and the law breakers, and in which lawmakers will protect and promote the public interest rather than furthering their own needs.
Okay, thank you so much. Of course, now that we were not able to pick on specific, okay, we still have a little bit.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You can now mute. You can now mute. Please mute. The next now item is the practical aspect. Place these excerpts in its immediate context. And I've given 4 marks. 4 marks. That means you have to help us understand what happens before the excerpt and what happens after the excerpt. Please pay attention to the way I have written my answer. It is not in a point form like someone was asking. It is in a form of a paragraph. And within that paragraph, as a reader, I am in a position to know that this is point before and this is point after the excerpt. If I can read for you, Narine, someone is making some noise somewhere, maybe opening some pages of a book or something. Narine, the principal, calls Nicole to the office to inform her about the leaders led by Mosi, who will be visiting the office to discuss something with the latter that they consider important. The second one, the principal is fed, of course there's something missing here, is fed up with the visits and the threats. While they are still talking, the secretary enters the office and announces the arrival. Then Narine excuses herself and leaves Nicole with the visitors. And I have in bracket Justice Jaden, Mayor Mosi, just hold on, I correct something here. Mr. Harvester, Inspector Bembe, Honorable Seymour, Honorable Ted, Honorable Ramdai, and Honorable Basdale. And then Nicole asks them what the visit is about. Then thereafter, Nicole agrees with Mosi's sentiment and says that she looks forward to a new era in which everyone will be a good Samaritan and being a brother's keeper. Basdeo proposes to be appointed a co-mayor, while Justice Jaden, I wrote Jaden the way we are used to it, proposes that Nicole is appointed a Director General to help in the running of the municipality affairs. Now, the way it is written here, it is me, the reader, who will know that this is point for before and this is point for after. Remember where we began from. We said good practice, people will be told to write a heading and they say before and they put the points. They will write another heading after and they put the points. But I called you to order and I informed you the danger of doing that. That if you mix up the points under those given headings, you will not get it right. You'll be given zeros. So let's go through now. I want to show you the marking points. What are the marking points? If this were to be KCSE, where will you be scoring? The first tick, this is where the first tick will land. Narine, the principal, calls Nicole to the office. Calls Nicole to the office. That is tick 1. That is an action. The second tick will land at to inform her about the leaders led by Mosi who will be visiting the office to discuss something with the latter that they consider important. And the word important, that will be the second tick. And the 2 ticks I've given are for what happens before. And then the remaining ticks are going to be blank ticks because I've already exhausted the marks for before. Yet these students still gave me the points for before. So the remaining points will be blank ticks. For those who do not know the meaning of blank ticks, it means had the student not mentioned the first 2 points, but would have mentioned the next 2 or so points, they will still score. That is the meaning of a blank tick. You have scored, but I have run out of the marks. There is no any other mark I can give you, but I appreciate that this is a very important point you have mentioned. So the next blank tick is the principal is fed up with the visits and the threats. That is a blank tick. That is another point for before. And while they are still talking, the secretary enters the office. That is, okay, let me delay the tick, and announces their arrival, the arrival of the mayor and his entourage. That's another blank tick. Then Narine excuses herself and leaves Nicole with the visitors. That is another blank tick. For which points? The before. Now, pay attention. I have put the names of Justice Jaden and the rest in brackets. That means this student would have said, Nicole, if you like, Narine excuses herself and leaves Nicole with the visitors. Or another student would have said, Narine excuses herself and leaves Nicole with Justice Jaden, Mayor Mosi, and the rest. So you don't need to mention the names here. You can as well do with the word visitors. If you don't want to use the word visitors, then have the liberty of mentioning the names. Then Nicole asks them about, if you like, what the visit is about. That is another blank tick. Now, at that point, I want to alert you, please. I'm not asking you to write all these things. I'm not asking you to write everything that happened before the exact. No. Remember, you have to be closer to the exact. Keep it closer to the exact. If you write as much as I've written here, someone may accuse you of veering away from the exact and saying things far away from the exact. So keep it close. Number 2, you don't have to write all these points. Any of these points will give you a mark. So don't say the teacher said we write 6 points, we write 8 points. No. What I need here are 2 points for before and 2 points for after. Now, what follows here are the points for after. And the first point for after is Nicole agrees with Moses' sentiment and says, of course, at that point, Nicole agrees with Moses' sentiment and says that she looks forward to a new era in which everyone will be a good Samaritan and being a brother's keeper. You have a tick 1. Now that tick 1 is for after. Then Basdeo proposes to be appointed a co-mayor, That is tick 1. Then the remaining will be blank ticks because we have exhausted our 2 marks that we would have given for the after. So while Justice Jaden proposes that Nicole is appointed a Director General to help in the running of the municipality affairs, that is a blank tick. So gentlemen, that is a brief illustration. Had you been in an exam and you are given this kind of an excerpt, and you are told to, place it in its immediate context, these are some of the answers I would have expected. Once again, please don't write in point form. This is not a question asking you to make notes. This is a different question altogether.
Mr. Sinino, sir, may we take roll call now? Mr. Sinino, just hold on.
Yes, please.
For students, just look at your screen. You should see your class. Pick your class and submit. I can see out of 204, 100 have already done the roll call. That's very good in the first 2 seconds. I can see 140 have done it. Very good. With Form 3C doing very well as usual. So let's finish up. Can see over 160 have already done the roll call very fast. 4D still struggling. Let's finish up. It should take us about 2 seconds to finish the roll call. Let's finish up the roll call, boys. Look at your screen. Remember, we said if you don't see the roll call, then you might be using an older version of the app on your phone or on your laptop. We said you update. If you haven't updated, then be sure you cannot see the roll call. But I think the number is also very small because we have about less than 5 also who have that issue. So update your app from the Play Store if you're using your phone, or if you're using an iPhone. Same if you're using a laptop, just update.
Wanaombiro Form 3D and 3B, they're not doing well.
Not doing well. 3D, not doing well at all.
B?
This is a D and even K. Actually B, yeah. B and the D. Doing poorly. 176 have already taken the roll call. We need to have that number going to over 90% of the participants before you can close or stop the roll call.
And then, of course, you'll have to alert me, probably through Madam Cross, how many more minutes I still have so that I know how to bring this to a close.
You have, sir, you have around 30 minutes plus, around 30 minutes there. So about 35 minutes
to
finish.
Before you continue, Mwalimu, allow me to make an announcement.
Okay, please go ahead, madam.
The announcement is that we have a change in tomorrow's schedule. Instead of chemistry in the morning, we'll be having biology. Students, take note, instead of chemistry tomorrow morning, we'll be having biology. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Boys, you have not done the roll call. Finish. This is around 87% of the participants. We still have some who have not taken the roll call. A number have not taken roll call. I can see this is 177 now. One more is done. There are those who are away. I think this is a confirmation, madam. I think you should confirm that. There are boys who just turn on their phones and then they go away. They are not next to the phone. So they are coming later to come and update. That's what's happening. So there are boys who are not participating.
That's not it, Malu. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're at 80%. We should. I'll share the results also. We see who was present and who is not. Thank you very much. I want to stop the roll call now.
Mr. Ombiro, before you go.
Yes, sir.
Would you be kind enough to work with me so that if I ask a question to a given student, maybe you help me in checking the chat room and then you pick one for me?
Okay. I don't know how you want that done, but we can try out.
For example, if I ask a question and you just check maybe the chat room.
Okay. Okay.
And you call upon them.
Okay. Okay. Let's try that out. Let's try that out.
For me.
Okay, that's great. We can try that.
So am I the one to end the roll call or are you doing it on your end?
Just a minute. Just a minute. I'll end it. I'll end it.
Okay. Okay. Do I proceed now?
Yes, sir. You may proceed. Thank you.
Okay, so please, candidates, rather from trees, I know you are our candidates in the waiting. Please take learning seriously. Don't log in and then you're doing something else. Attend the lesson so that you benefit by all means, and whatever question you have will be responded to. Even if we don't respond to the question today and in this meeting, when we open school, we are very much available to respond to you. And probably through the class, the office of the form principal, we may be a little bit choosy. If you ask a question and we realize you are not in this meeting today, you know what that means. So please, let's move a little bit faster. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. There is a question here. They're saying, using your knowledge of the play, there's a little bit of mix up in terms of the numbering. Don't worry about it. Using your knowledge of the play, do you think the leader's apologies are honest? Using your knowledge of the play, do you think the leader's apologies are honest? That is a very good question. They are giving you the freedom to go outside the excerpt. You've been given the freedom to go outside the excerpt. You have read this play. You know who Mayor Mose Watunya, the smoke that thunders, is. You know the kind of leader Seymour is. You know the kind of a leader, Bemba, of course, is a General Inspector of Police. You know who he is. That they have come to apologize to Nicole. Do you think they are honest? And they have given you the freedom. So in that question, I may not be looking for the answer now, but they are simply saying, go outside this excerpt before you respond to the question. You have read the play. You know the behavior of these people. It is fair to say that their apologies are not honest because one, the Inspector General of Police, that is Bembe, he implicated Nicole in a case that she was, if you like, she had nothing to do with, accusing her of stealing the school generator when you and I, we know that she was innocent. Number two, someone may make an argument and say the leaders are apologetic for now because they are in hot soup, because they're in trouble. Their arrest is looming. They are likely to be arrested and be hounded out of their offices. So they know now they need Nicole like they have never needed her before. So they are doing everything humanly possible to catch the interest of Nicole, if you like, to have the help of Nicole, the intervention of Nicole to save their skin. So that's why we don't find the apology honest. So I brought in this question so that I alert you that we have other questions where you will be given permission to go beyond the excerpt. Then you look at the next question. They have told you to identify and illustrate how the playwright, for those who may not know who a playwright is, that basically is an author or a writer of a play. Whereas for the novels, we refer to them just as authors. Specifically for the play, we refer to them as a playwright. So the question is, identify and illustrate how the playwright has foregrounded his work in this excerpt. And I have given you 6 marks. The first assignment you have here is the division of marks. How many points are they looking for you to score the 6 marks? That is number 1. Number 2, underline the word foregrounded. And I deliberately chose to use the word foregrounded because this was a question, Madam Cross, if you remember, I think it was in 2013, John Ruganda's, was it Shreds of Tenderness, I hope. The students were asked to explain how John Ruganda has foregrounded his work. That is Shreds of Tenderness. And they gave the students 6 marks. That is the year students suffered so much. If you guys, you remember, most of them did not understand when they asked them about foregrounding. So that is why in this presentation, I have gone out of my way, my dear students, to use the word foregrounding to suggest to you that whenever they ask this kind of a question, they're basically asking you about the use of style in the play or in the novel, the use of style. Then, of course, now that we have 6 marks here, we shall be looking for 3 styles well identified and illustrated. Identification 1 mark, illustration 1 mark, and you'll be able to score yourself 6 marks, 3 times 2. Once again, for grounding, use of style. And then, of course, another question that a possible question that would encounter from that conversation, the themes, maybe on this one, Banombiro, if you don't mind, back to you. I would like maybe just one student to identify any style used in this excerpt, and another student to identify any theme portrayed in this excerpt. Back to you, Banombiro.
I think it'll be good if the students put up their hand. I'm sure the students know how to put up their hand, and then we can select. Just put up your hand, and you'll go ahead. Any student, when you want to participate, just put up your hand. Yes, I can see Eunice Ali. Your hand is up. You can go ahead, Eunice. Eunice Ali, go ahead. As Eunice goes ahead, I want to remind the rest that we've noted about 14 students left as soon as roll call was taken. This is very serious. It means some students were there just to take a roll call and go ahead. So I think I've also indicated that to the class principal. I think she should follow up on that. Eunice, go ahead. You can read. Eunice, you're not unmuted. Unmute yourself so we can hear you. Okay, any other? Eunice looks like he's having a challenge to unmute himself. Any other person who wants to participate can put up your hand. Those who don't know how to raise their hand, you can look at your screen where you have reactions. Tap on reactions, you can see raise hand, and you can pick that option. That's how you do it. If you're using your phone or your laptop, you should see reactions. But yeah, I understand some are saying they don't know where to raise their hand. Okay, Terence, your hand is up. Terence, go ahead.
Okay.
Terence, it's your time now.
I think the students are having issues unmuting themselves.
Unmuting, looks like that. Yeah, let me just try to see. Oh yeah, looks like this. Okay. Can you try to unmute yourself? Yeah. Oh, thank you, Eunice. Yes, now I can hear you.
Dialogue. There is a conversation between the characters.
Go ahead. Mr. Sinino, you can hear him? Eunice, you can go ahead once again. I think you looks like Mwalimu is away.
I've said one of the styles is dialogue because there is a conversation between the characters.
Thank you, Eunice, if that is your name. I'm not sure if that's your name, but thank you so much for that response. Him, he has responded. He has told me to pick up from that point, Mr. Mbiro.
Yeah.
Okay. Gentlemen, I think I'll want to bring this meeting to a close, and then I will benchmark with Mr. Mbiro to help me how to stabilize my internet, because it has kept removing me from the, I don't know if it's the internet or the Zoom thing, because I'm being told here about the billing issues and what have you. But Mbiro, maybe after this meeting behind the tent, you'll help me to know what to do then. Back to my student, if you can hear me, there is a response you gave about dialogue, and that was a very, very good response and a good mistake. Allow me to call it a good mistake so that we can learn. Please take note, my dear students. Please take note. A play is already in form of dialogue. A play is already in form of dialogue. So you cannot use, sorry, you cannot use dialogue as a style. Please take note of that. We talk about dialogue if it is a novel or a short story. So it's a good mistake that you've made to help us to learn going forward, that whenever answering exact questions about play, don't say dialogue is one of them. I think that is clear. Asha Wafula, what do you have to say? Asha Wafula? Bishop Asha, your hand was up. Okay, we have Melvin Barak.
I think the statement by Mosi, where Mosi says, "I tread on people's toes in the course of duty." I think that's an idiom.
You think that's an idiom when he says he treads on people's
toes? Yeah.
In the course of his duty.
Yes.
Treading on people's toes. Fine. I can see Temi Ray, your hand is up. Temi?
Yes, the use of allusion when okay, the mention of the Good Samaritan.
Yes. Temi? And please, if you can hear me. Yes?
We was saying there is the use of allusion because there's the mention of the Good Samaritan.
So which kind of allusion is that? Tell me which kind of allusion is that?
Biblical allusion.
Yeah, remember when you just say allusion, it doesn't score, because there are several forms of allusion, several of them. So you have to be specific. And then number two, please don't use this phrase, "there is use of." Avoid that phrase, "there is use of." Go to the point and say, biblical allusion, hyphen, Nicole mentions Good Samaritan as used in the Bible. Don't say "there is use of." Avoid that kind of a phrase. There are several hands here, but I would like to bring the class to a close because of several reasons here and there. But please, I'm not asking you to leave the class. You only leave the class with the permission of your form principal. There are several questions that I've left out that we have not responded to, several of them. And like I've made a promise and through the also the form principal, please, when we open school, I'm sure she is capable of organizing a meeting so that we can meet now and go through this whole stuff without looking like we are fighting the idea of technology as offered by Mr. Ombiro. So I apologize for the technical hitches we have encountered. Several of you have been putting up issues here, teacher, you are breaking and what have you. Please bear with it. But we promise when we are back in school, things will be up and running. Otherwise, I wish you well. Thank you for joining the meeting. Back to you, Madam Cross. Back to you, Madam Cross. Form principal, if you can hear me, please, it is your time. Mr. Ombiro, please confirm if the form principal is in the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Sinino. Madam Koros has left the meeting, but that was a very informative lesson. I believe we've learned a lot. So students, we apologize for that hitch with technology, but we promise that you're going to have a lesson or even an hour or two with our examiner, our paper 2 examiner, that is Mr. Sinino. So thank you so much, Mr. Sinino, and thank you so much, Mr. Ombiro. Have a lovely day.
You too.
Same to you.
Good day.
Same to you.
Gilu.
Same.
Just end the meeting.
Rada Kevogo.
Same.
End the meeting.
Same leave.